Now, two issues especially are killing the federal Liberals, cost them a quarter of their support, most of which has gone to One Nation instead. One was going along with Labor's net zero emissions target, in my opinion. That's now been junked. And the other is, of course, mass immigration. Well, the Liberals now say they'll cut mass immigration as well. I mean, you just heard Pauline Hanson say, no, well, it should be cut to 130. The Liberals haven't been that bold. In fact, they haven't even released the plan or a target. They've just issued principles. But at least suggests that they don't want, well, not 130. They want 220,000 net overseas immigrants. Now, that's still a hell of a lot. But yes, it's way down compared to what we've been getting under Labor, but still nearly 3 times higher than the average intake for half a century, which was just over 80,000. Here's Susan Lee today with a response from the Prime Minister, actually, that I don't understand.
The migration numbers into Australia are far too high, and Labor has got this all wrong.
Perhaps the policy's been written by kids. If you go into a local school here, primary school, you'll have local kids stand up and they'll say 6'7", 6'7", it's a big thing. Well, 6'7", what does it mean? It means nothing.
Joining me is Leith Van Onselen, who has written extensively on immigration and is co-founder of the excellent macro business blog and business, and a former Federal Treasury official. Leith Van Onselen, thank you so much for your time. Your thoughts on the Liberals' plans, such as it is so far?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Look, it's an improvement on Labor's, but let's be honest, 200,000 net overseas migration is still extremely high. It's just below the 220,000 average net overseas migration that we had in the 15 years of Big Australia recorded before the pandemic. So the Liberals basically just want to take us back to pre-pandemic levels of immigration, which, as I said, is still way too high. And it's still a recipe for, massive population growth in a big Australia. Look, personally, I'd rather see net overseas migration cut to around 150,000 or less. And that's pretty much in line with what Peter Dutton was proposing at the last election. And we should also focus that on, genuine skills that the country actually needs rather than more Uber drivers. And we don't have to look far to see other countries that have done it. So Canada, which is, pretty similar country to Australia, they've actually implemented massive immigration reductions. And there's no reason why Australia can't emulate Canada and do the same thing.
Yeah, it drives me nuts. I keep saying, oh, no, we do have a very, very targeted immigration program for skilled workers. And you look closer, and many of those skilled workers aren't working in skilled jobs at all, or they're not the jobs that they said they'd take if they came here. I mean, I don't know. I feel the whole thing is as loose as anything.
Yeah, it is. And another problem with it is, and this obviously gets back to the housing thing, out of the hundreds of thousands of migrants that we bring in every year, very few actually work in construction. It's a tiny, tiny proportion. So as a result, we're constantly increasing demand for housing infrastructure, but we're not actually increasing the supply side of that because the migrants that we're bringing in don't work in those areas. So it's just a recipe for perpetual housing shortages and perpetual infrastructure shortages.
Yeah, I heard someone from the government just the other day say, oh no, we need all these immigrants to come and build the houses that we desperately need. I don't think they're building them, they're filling them, but not building them. But speaking of that, immigration does put more and more pressure on house prices. Labor goes, oh, you're picking on the immigrants, trying to stir up resentment among immigrant communities. No, we just, cause with a supply and demand, there's a higher demand. They all have to live somewhere. The Albanese government says it has a plan to build 1.2 million homes in 5 years, but it's really way behind schedule. And Leith, today, I'm sure you saw it, the Housing Industry Association said the government would have to build not 1.2 million homes, but nearly 2 million before someone on an average wage could even afford the price of the average house. This is another disaster, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's a massive disaster. And let's be honest, this disaster was outlined explicitly by the latest report from the National Housing Supply and Affordability Council, which is the federal government's own advisory council on affordability and supply. And this report was released a few months back, and it showed that Australia is facing a shortage of homes over the 5 years to 2029 of 79,000. Now, that's on top of Australia's existing housing shortage of about 200,000. And the thing about these forecasts, Andrew, is that they're actually based on fairly conservative immigration numbers. And the National Housing Supply and Affordability Council forecast that if the population grows by 15% faster than is forecast by Treasury, which seems very likely based on the immigration settings that we've got, that our shortage will actually worsen by 200,000 over the next 5 years. So that means we'll have a cumulative shortage of about 400,000 by 2029. So it's a total disaster. It's been brought about by excessive levels of immigration. It also highlights why immigration must be cut to balance demand with supply, because if we don't do it, this housing shortage is just going to keep getting worse.
Yes, but it's feeding into the tendency now of both sides, increasingly Liberals are doing it too, of pandering to immigrant communities by saying, no, extra immigration does not put pressure on the house. We've just got to boost supply. I mean, it's just such a fraud, and I wonder if we can ever dig our way out of it at this rate. Leith Van Onselen, thank you so much indeed for your time.
Thanks, Andrew.